And a key part of holding on to good people is looking after them and rewarding loyalty. So talking to us about leadership and our life coach, always here on a Sunday afternoon, is Harold Hillman. Hi, Harold. How are you? The job market in New Zealand is hot. The attrition rate or employee turnover rate is the highest ever since 2008, last decade anyway. More jobs opening up, a critical shortage in some skilled professions, and I guess team leaders, Harold, have to work harder to keep their top performers from leaving.
That's right. It is. Look, it's part of any companies, any moderate to large-sized company is going to have what's called a talent management strategy, where they keep their eye on, just really wanting to make sure that they have the best people on the teams in the company, what we sometimes call high performers. And so we do have to pay attention to what's called attrition or employee turnover. Those two terms are used interchangeably, but there's a slight difference. When we talk about attrition, we are talking about the reasons that people leave that are usually associated with sort of the normal life cycle. So someone who moves to another city or retires or leaves the company to raise a family or attend school. Even redundancies now around organizational restructures. We're talking about the usual ebb and flow of people through a business. Whereas with employee turnover, we're really talking, that term applies to people who leave the company for reasons that could have been avoided. So due to someone who was terminated or taking a better job elsewhere, or because there was no room for growth. And in some cases, Trudi, hostile or discriminatory work environments, for example, where workplace bullying may be prevalent. So you want to make a distinction between those two. Your employee turnover rate may say a whole lot about the company in terms of pain points. And you want to keep your eye on the attrition rate. Ideally, you want your employee turnover rate somewhere between 10 and 20% annually. Anything under 10% sort of suggests that you may not have enough churn to refresh the team with new ideas and new thinking. And then anything over 25% may suggest that you have some I call them pain points to deal with, that there's some things about your culture that may be causing people to leave in droves.
So what are some strategies for us, Harold, if we're in that role of management, to hold on to our top talent?
Well, you really want to find out what motivates people, treat people as individuals, and actually get to know them. It actually helps if you sit down with each member of your team and try to find out what really invigorates them. How do they want to grow? How do they want to stretch themselves? And so to identify a few professional goals each year to help them grow inside the company. Find them a mentor, maybe a coach. Encourage them to network externally with people who do the same things that they do. Send them on a course, something to grow them. It also helps, Trudi, if you have a strong team, meaning that you make sure that your team is not only high-performing, but it's a healthy team as opposed to a dysfunctional team, because sometimes your best people will leave if there's too much of a nuisance factor or petty issues that are distracting them from their work. You clearly want to give your best people room for advancement, and even if you're not a big company and there's no corporate ladder, you can still grow people laterally. You move them horizontal. You can give them bigger titles. You can give them different responsibilities to just give them that sense that they actually are building their capability in exchange for all of the hard work that they give. And then finally, if you want to hold on to your best people, Trudi, you've got to pay them competitively. So to keep your eye on sort of what the norms are, what the means are around salary and compensation and those types of things.
What I'm interested in, though, is if you do single out your top performers, and yes, they certainly definitely deserve a reward, whether that's a pay increase or, like you say, sending off on a course or, off to go a little travel away for the weekend or a new fridge, whatever it might be. But that's actually singling those guys out who are already sort of really great performers and sort of top of the heap anyway. I guess this just might make people underneath that feel a bit upset.
It's a bit of a risk in terms of how you do that, so you've got to use the right language. For example, under a talent management strategy, I usually suggest that every single person that walks through that door has some talent. And so your talent strategy shouldn't just be about sort of the top 15% performers and everybody else is on their own. But it is important around succession in a company and who the future leaders are going to be, to invest a bit more in your top performers, because these are the people who are the game changers. They can make a big difference. But you have to manage it carefully so that other employees don't perceive that they are less important. That's not the message as much as that we really do want game changers, those people who are going to perhaps be sitting in key leadership roles 10 years out. We want to grow them towards those roles. So we have to invest a bit more to keep our high performers on board.
Absolutely, and jealousy and envy in the workplaces are not very attractive. Thinking though, when you do reward your top performers, does that then make them a little bit more diva-esque, if you like, and like, I can do what I want, and then they'll perhaps, you might even risk losing them if you don't give them what they want?
Yeah, you're always going to lose some of your top performers, and I often encourage managers to not view that as a sign of inadequacy or that somehow they have failed. There's a common sort of personality that sits under a high potential person. This is a person with high achievement need, high intrinsic drive. They want to make a difference in bigger roles. A lot of them have aspirations to actually lead a business, lead a team, lead a business, lead a company. And so you should really think of it, if you have high performers on your team, you are actually helping them become better leaders. You're not training them to be followers. You're training them to be leaders. And so you're going to lose some. So have a reasonable expectation around attrition or employee turnover related to them. But you can, the whole thing is that these people would see that they have some role in the future of the company. And so that's really the thing, to try to keep them engaged and try to keep them internal. It pays off. There's a big loss when your top performers walk out of the organization, particularly if they walk out in, increasing numbers.
It is 1:45. We're talking with our life coach, Harold Hillman. He's like our own Tony Robbins that we get here every Sunday afternoon. We hear a lot about how to deal with top performers, right, and the poor performers, because they're not doing much. But what about the majority of the team, the people in the middle, the little workhorses, the loyal ones? They're pretty much on their own.
Yeah, you sort of look at the bell curve, and that you think of your top performers as being on one end of the bell curve and your poor performers on the other. And in the middle, there's this huge, the great majority of your population there. As I said before, you want to think of everybody in the organization, even your poor performers. Sometimes it's a matter of whether or not they're motivated enough, but everybody that you hire should perceive that you're hiring them for specific talent. And this thing around engagement, a big factor, Trudi, in reducing employee turnover, those reasons that people leave that could be avoided, a big factor in reducing employee turnover is this thing called engagement, employee engagement. How engaged are people when they walk through the door each day? Do they really believe that they are making a difference? Is it just about a paycheck, or do they honestly believe that their contribution every day has direct impact on the top and bottom line of how the business works? And so you don't want to disregard your sort of those folks that are in the middle there. Everybody should have a development plan. You should talk with everybody on your team about what it is, how it is that they want to grow, and get them engaged in it, get them active about their own development and their own engagement.
And key is having a great leader, and as a person at work, keeping your feet firmly on the ground and being nice and kind. Thank you so much, very much. We always appreciate your insights, Harold Hillman, our life coach there. Just Google him. He's great. And when your best people start to leave the team at higher rates and more rapidly than your poorer performers, you have a real problem on your hands. And I guess when this happens, the bar naturally lowers for the team and the performance and results drop off too. So interesting chats here this afternoon.